Pressing on. All minor stress is going gone. Pressing on. I'm pressing on.
Hello once again, my loyal subscribers. For any first-time viewers out there, I am the one and only Impulse Kid 86, and this is my review for Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions on the Xbox 360. The game starts off with Mysterio seeking out a mystical artifact that he hopes to use for his own devious desires. Of course, our friendly neighbourhood web-slinger shows up, and the ensuing scuffle results in the thing getting smashed into a million tiny pieces. No biggie, it's only a simple tablet, right? Right?
Spider-Man, you are needed.
Madam Web? As if this night wasn't strange enough already.
The Tablet of Order and Chaos is the most powerful of all the mystic artifacts in the world, and you shattered it.
Oh god damn it, I knew I spoke too soon! Naturally, everybody's favourite amazing Spider-Man is tasked with retrieving the tablet. Unfortunately for him, the pieces of this magical puzzle aren't just spread over our world, but multiple others as well. And if that plot seems as paper-thin as the comics that this game is based off, then it should come as no surprise that it was written by none other than Daniel Slott, who, if memory serves me correctly, is 1/5 of the current writing team behind the Amazing Spider-Man books. Suffice it to say that if you're looking for a story as deep and involving as Web of Shadows was, you're not going to find it here. Luckily for all you fine folks at home, this means that you'll get to control 3 other versions of Spider-Man, each hailing from their own alternate time periods. You'll get to defend the New York of 1933 as the Noir Spider-Man, send a teeny-bopper version of Peter Parker on a thrilling jaunt through a present day that's slightly different from ours, and take a quantum leap into the distant future, where you can meet Miguel O'Hara and party like it's 2099. Regarding the gameplay, Shattered Dimensions is jarringly different than the Spidey games we've been receiving over the course of the last 6 years or so, with the first and foremost change being that there's no longer a gigantic city to swing through. In fact, things are scaled so far back that it comes across as something like the Spider-Man games released for the original PlayStation at the beginning of the millennium, as you make your way from one end of each linear stage to the next. Thankfully, the game makes an effort to mix things up a bit by showing off some unique level features, like 2099's freefall sections, and giving each of the 4 Spider-Men different battle mechanics. The Amazing Spider-Man doesn't stray too far from the expected, relying on his impressive agility and numerous web attacks to survive. The Ultimate Spider-Man is clad in the protoplasmic venom suit and summons the brute force of his rage mode to get the job done, while the resident webhead of the future uses his accelerated vision to slow down time and introduce his enemies face first into the floor. Finally, and most distinctly, the Noir Spider-Man relies on stealth to dispose of his targets, giving you a chance to get your sneak on as you slink through the shadows and perform some very cool takedowns. On that note, as much as it hurts to admit it, the Noir stages present at least one major issue with me, but I'll get to that in due time. Another new addition is the Web of Destiny, home to various little challenges that can be completed on the move, such as knocking out 5 enemies in a single burst of rage, or performing 5 takedowns in a row without touching the ground. While they certainly make for a nice change from frequently having to go hunting for lost balloons, completing them ends up becoming a necessity if you want to unlock not only all of the combat abilities, which can be upgraded with the Spider Essence collected from dead opponents, but also a slew of other nifty goodies like extra costumes. Seeing the Spider-Man 1602 suit is fairly awesome in my opinion, but if you want a real nostalgia trip, why not try out the bombastic Bagman outfit? The Awesome Foursome also have moments that send them into first-person combat, where you get to use the analog sticks to bring on the pain. Although I won't go so far as to agree with IGN's statement that they aren't anything anyone would want in a Spidey game, playing through these segments does indeed feel very awkward and can take a while to get used to.
You keep bragging about your fancy wings. Let's see you land without them.
The basic controls are set up well enough, with some of the 4 face buttons having both a general and level-specific function. The A button allows you to jump as well as increase your speed during freefall. The B button lets you perform a web strike as well as grab things and perform takedowns in the Noir levels, and the X and Y buttons respectively execute weak and strong melee attacks. Meanwhile, the left trigger puts you in a defensive stance while the right one lets you take to the skies and start swinging from the nearest cloud. Last but not least, pressing the left bumper sets off Ultimate Spidey's Rage Mode and 2099's Enhanced Vision, pressing the right bumper launches projectile webs, and tapping up on the directional pad triggers a spider sense that allows you to track enemies and reveal hidden goodies. Each of the 4 dimensions you travel through also has its own visual style to help keep things nice and fresh. The world of The Amazing Spider-Man is rendered in a manner similar to Borderlands, while Ultimate Spidey's surroundings struck me as a much more refined take on the graphics from his previous solo video game. Meanwhile, the New York of 2099 ditches the cel shading in favour of more traditional graphics, and the grim dark noir levels are suitably sprinkled with a hefty amount of film grain, with what little colour there is fading to black when you're lurking in the shadows. In my opinion, the only real dent in this otherwise fine suit of armour would be the cutscenes that bookend each level. I realise how ironic this is going to sound, but I don't think the limited animation style works very well in this instance. Of course, I understand that the developers were clearly trying to emulate the look of a comic book, but these cutscenes are completely offset by the far superior in-game ones. One thing I give Shattered Dimensions massive points for is the soundtrack. To start off with, famous film score composer Jim Dooley is the mastermind behind the game's background music. You think that's cool? It gets a lot better, since all 4 versions of Spider-Man are voiced by an actor that's played the title character in the past. In chronological order, we have Daniel Gilvezan from 1981's Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends as Spider-Man 2099.
That's me, ready to save the universe and looking good while doing it.
Christopher Daniel Barnes from the 1990s era lends his voice to the noir Spider-Man.
Say your prayers, punks. Here comes the Spider-Man.
Neil Patrick Harris from MTV's short-lived CGI Spidey series breathes life into the Amazing Spider-Man.
That's how you put the zing in amazing.
While Joshua Keaton of the recently cancelled Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon steps up to play the Ultimate Spider-Man.
That hits the spot. Yeah, baby. Like that. Right there.
Ew. Do you and your generator, need some time alone?
Furthermore, David Kaye, perhaps best known as Megatron from the Transformers sequel Beast Wars, hams it up in the role of Mysterio.
Cease your incessant prattlings!
But incessant is the best kind of prattle.
Thomas F. Wilson, yes folks, that Thomas F. Wilson, provides the voice of Ultimate Electro.
You think you're so hot, don't you?
Actually, now that you mention it.
And to cap it all off, the game is narrated by the one and only Stan Lee himself. The cast all do a respectable job with what they're given, but sadly, the 4 Spider-Men in particular wind up sharing most of the same remarks, and you'll more than likely end up getting tired of them fairly quickly. And don't even get me started on Madam Web's advice during the boss battles. Earlier, I mentioned that I had one major beef with the noir stages, in that this particular version of the hero is incredibly piss-weak. Now, I'll admit I haven't read the Spidey Noir comics yet, so I'm probably missing something there, and I understand that the developers were obviously trying to make this one stand out from the others, in which case they succeeded all too well. You see, in the event that you get caught out and swarmed by goons, you'll go down like a total chump unless you make like a ninja and vanish. Further exacerbating matters is the fact that most of Noir's melee attacks can be easily shrugged off by even the lowliest of enemies, which leads me to ask the question, why the hell did the developers even bother leaving in these abilities when, 9 times out of 10, nothing short of a web-based attack or a powered-up punch will phase these guys? I am all for being stealthy, but I think I speak for at least most people who've played this when I say that I'd love to be able to put up a fight if I can't avoid it. Even more bothersome is the fact that quite a few annoyances from past Spidey games show up once again. The lock-on systems seem to love pointing at nearby objects rather than enemies, and the camera still makes wall crawling mildly problematic. Evidently, the folks at Beenox didn't realise that when scaling surfaces, especially ceilings, you really don't want to be staring at Spider-Man's ass. Well, not unless you're into that kind of thing. In addition, there are still points in the game where you have to rescue civilians. Oh, joy. Call me crazy, but I thought we were done with this crap when the decision was made to move away from open-world games. Oh well, can't win them all, I guess. Even so, all of this is nothing compared to the icing on the cake. During my time with the game, I encountered no less than 3 major glitches. one of which involved a botched takedown attack.
Come on, what do you got?
Stuff like this is far more understandable in a sandbox game like Web of Shadows, given how much content has to be loaded onto the screen. But in something like this, it's really sad to see the very obvious end result of a rushed development process sour the experience. All in all, I'd honestly say that even if you're not the most hardcore of Spider-Man fans, this game is definitely worth a rental at the very least. When it hiccups, you'll know about it, but when it works wonderfully.
Vulture like that. He was sweating bullets.
Yeah, and anything that scares a guy like that scares me.
The Spider wants to muscle in on this action. He's messing with the wrong gang. I'll fill him full of daylight.
It's nighttime.
Same principle.
It doesn't sound as good, though. A film full of nighttime?
Exactly.
See, this is why we're just goons. Because we have stupid discussions like this.